Bonjour à tous, ça va être l'heure pour la prochaine conférence. Je vous invite à vous approcher dans les gradins. Ça va être une présentation par professeur Robert Koke, qui est un professeur de bioressources, d'ingénierie en fait en bioressources à l'Université de McGill. Il a travaillé sur la production de masse d'insectes depuis plus de 40 ans. Donc, il va nous présenter un petit peu son travail et pourquoi, quel type de résidus on peut utiliser au Québec. En plus, nous présenter des repas qu'il a cuisinés il y a plus de 40 ans avec les insectes comestibles. Donc, Monsieur Robert Koch est vraiment un des pionniers de l'industrie des insectes comestibles au Québec. Donc, on est vraiment heureux de l'avoir avec nous aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup.
Aha, yes, that's what I need. Sound test, yeah, it works. Hey. Bonjour tout le monde, je suis très heureux d'être ici pour vous donner une petite présentation. Puis la présentation sera en anglais. Si vous avez des questions après, vous pouvez donner les questions en français ou en anglais, comme vous voulez. Puis mon présentation est l'histoire des insectes comestibles. Ah. Maybe turn it a little bit. Ah, yes. OK, ça va meilleur comme ça. OK, merci. So the fun title of the presentation is Ranching the Roach, because usually we ranch cows and other animals, but here we are ranching the roach. It's a short history of the consumption of insects in six short parts. And my brand name is Koke Roach, so that's what I use. En français, c'est une précision par système Coquerel. Oui. So I'm going to talk first of all, about both products and methods of production. So of course these are two different things. So the products that we're looking at generally are these are Mopani worms. These are really caterpillars, very popular in Africa. Here you see a number of different types of crickets in Mexico. These are roasted palm weevil larvae. This was in northern Benin in Africa. Some mealworms. These are Canadian mealworms. You know, you see the little flags on them, Canadian mealworms. Not Quebec mealworms. These are Ontario mealworms. So. But then in terms of the products, we also are now beginning to see consumer level products that are packaged and that are available in the supermarkets in small quantities. The other type of thing that you see is we're seeing food ingredients. So this is oil made from silkworm pupa. And in this particular case, that's a salad oil. So you would normally put this on a salad. And then we are also beginning to see industrially produced ingredients. So this here is protein powder from a company called Protix in the Netherlands. And so these are the products. Now the production methods throughout the history of mankind, first of all, have been hunting and gathering. Hunting and gathering, that was the primitive method. This is a little bit more sophisticated hunting and gathering. So here you have a lot of people cooperating, usually with grasshoppers and crickets and things like that. I think we're getting a no. You know, they really remind me, yeah, future customers. You know, they really remind me, of larvae of black soldier flies. They're all crawling in the same way, These are the larvae. Come on, kids, keep moving. Up, into the bin. So, there's more coming. This is, look at, oh, they're so cute. These are the 5-day-old larvae. Okay, here we have production methods that are more artisanal, and so these are crickets. So here we have artisanal cricket production, and we are now seeing some modest scale industrial production. So this is one of the production plants where we have industrial scale production. So this is the outline. We're going to look at the early history. Look, you know, we got some eggs walking by now. Fresh out of the egg. This is so cute. Feed him some mealworms, somebody, you know, please. Yeah, and that was your chance. Okay, so we're going to look at the early history. We're going to look at the beginning. The inspiration was space and waste. We're going to look at the awakening. It happens. Then we're going to look at industrialization. And now history is an interesting thing because the timeline is from minus infinity to plus infinity. We find ourselves at a certain point in the timeline, but history goes to the future as well as the past. So we're also going to look at the future history. So here we're, first of all, this is the really fun part. This is the early history, hunting, gathering. Madame is at the pupil stage. All right. This then, of course, is what happened. These are our ancestors, the early humanoid forms, and they simply go around and they hunt and gather and eat, stick in their mouth. And of course, insects. Insects were a fairly good part of their diet. This is in Australia, where the Aboriginal people still hunt witchetty grubs. Very nice, by the way, witchetty grubs. They're good to eat. This is a grasshopper collection. This is in, I believe this is in Vietnam. And so even today, people still harvest grasshoppers there. We're fairly sort of, fairly early techniques. And here is a basket of grasshoppers from Africa. This is an African scene. So I collect pictures and I steal them off the internet and whatever, whenever. Yeah. So some of these pictures are my own, and some of them are lifted from the internet, and I just use them. I think it's okay. Now, this is then actually a modern hunting and gathering method in Kenya. So this is for grasshoppers, and at night they put these metal things up, they shine lights on them, and the grasshoppers fly into them, and they collect them in bins. So this is still hunting, gathering. This is really one of my favorites, okay? These are honey ants, and they hang upside down, as you can see here. They hang upside down. They're basically a storage mechanism, and when you find a nest of honey ants, you pick one off, just like a little grape. You know, it's just like eating grapes. Well, very nice. Nice and sweet. There's honey. Yeah. Oh, ils sont comme ça. Des petits balles. Hein? Yeah. It's Australian maple syrup. So those are really, really cute. These are ant eggs. This is in Thailand. Yeah, so insect eggs are not very popular because they're quite expensive. Usually they taste good. Ant eggs are delicious. If you ever go to Mexico, Oaxaca, they sell ant eggs there, and they're really delicious. They're wonderful. So they're really good. So insect eggs are good. Of course, you need a lot of them, you know. This is actually, this used to be very, very big in Mexico. This is the water beetle, and the eggs used to be a foam on the rivers back in the good old days before pesticides and stuff. So these were collected by the bucket, and then people, this is a close-up of the little eggs, and then they bake them into cakes. Very, very nice. Just highly recommended. So very good. So there's actually a lot of interesting insect foods that were traditionally eaten. We have a Quebec special. This is Frémille, okay? These are ants, okay? My wife's grandfather was a bûcheron, and they would go through the woods. So this description is from Provencher in 1882. And les bûcherons trouvaient assez souvent dans les creux des arbres un grand nombre de fourmis gelées. This was in the winter. So the ants give off a kind of a sugary substance to survive. Gelées ou engourdies, et leur goût était comme le miel. So the bûcheron would actually stick his hand into this hollow in the tree, take out this squirming mass, and then they all had beards in those days, of course, because a good bûcheron has got a beard, you know. You can't be a bûcheron without a beard. And so you had to sort of pick the ants out of your beard and sort of comb them out. So it must have been quite a scene with all the sticky stuff and the ants crawling in your beard. It's great. Unfortunately, they didn't have cell phones in those days. I would love to see a video of this. It would have been great. But, okay. We then, this is a silkworm culture. And so, of course, this is already thousands of years old. So people move from hunting and gathering to fairly primitive, methods to artisanal methods. So these are artisanal methods. We have some houseflies walking through the colony. Good. Huh? Pardon? Okay. So here we have. So here we have. Sorry. So here we have ant culture. We have apiculture. So these are honeybees. And of course, that's also thousands of years old, and that is slowly but surely also going into becoming a new technology. So there's a lot of technology. Here is a very early human on a termite nest, and so termites of course are very popular food throughout the world. They taste delicious. Again, if you ever have a chance, roasted termite, it's like a good quality steak. And for all the winged forms, so people actually take the winged form and they eat them because they're nice and fat. So basically what you do is you fry them. You often separate the oil. This is already an old procedure. And then there's a delicious salad oil. And usually the children get to eat the fried termites because of the protein content. The really significant thing I want to point out here is that the termites eat cellulose. And that's a very, very important point. Cellulose. I'll come back to that. So, we now then go to part two, which is then the beginning of thought. And back in 1885, Vincent M. Holt published a cute little book, Why Not Eat Insects? And he he had been traveling around through the colonies. He was a Britishman, and he walked around through the colonies, and he said, why not eat insects? Bodenheimer in 1951 published, this is a humongous compilation of everything. He traveled all over the world, a wonderful compilation. If you want background on people eating insects, Bodenheimer, 1951, he was an amazing guy. Now that is a fantastic study. It's about 700 pages of details and all kinds of wonderful stories in there too. So when I was in Malawi a little while ago, I looked for this, and for example, he described how the children in Malawi during the season, the kids during lunch hour, they were let out of school, and they would run around. This is right beside Lake Malawi, and the brown fly there breeds in tremendous, tremendous densities. The children were let out of school during lunch hours, and they would run around with their mouth open. And that's how they had lunch, if you can imagine this, So I've tried this in my backyard with mosquitoes, but so then in 1975, Ron Taylor published his book, Butterflies in My Stomach, and that was kind of the beginning, and after that you see a fantastic explosion of literature, people eating insects. So Ron Taylor did Now, then we come to part 3, which is the inspiration. Okay? So at that time, I was a young professor, and a number of other people were. We were still professors, but we were no longer young professors, you know. And so, of course, at that point, we started thinking about space travel. And there is a picture of the galaxy, and we were looking at space stations like that. And what would you grow? What kind of agriculture would you have? And my team and I designed, we did a couple of years of work, a number of my graduate students did their work on the Eco-Cyborg project, which was a completely self-contained ecological system that would travel long-term through space. And so I won't dwell on that, but of course we had people there eating insects. And of course the ISS, the International Space Station, is a fairly limited version of that. So it's a very small version, but they ship all the food up. Now, if we're going to travel to Mars, you can't do that. You can't bring enough stuff along. Okay, you just can't do it. So you have to have an ecosystem that generates food. So this is one of the astronauts showing actually what was being eaten. Especially on longer trips, you have to generate your own food. So you have to grow plants, you have to then generate protein, and you have to all your other nutrients, and then you also have to dispose of your waste. So you got to have this circulation. You got to have a circular economy in there. You see, so on longer trips, of course, especially because in a thing like the International Space Station, even the Starship, it's going to be very, very limited in size. So you would not have chickens or cows or anything like that. You would have, you would have insects. Now, very early in the game, the question is, of course, what will they eat? And very early in the game, Dr. Julieta Ramos Elordi, in 1982, published her little book, Les Insectos como Fuente de Proteínas en el Futuro. And she was a very nice lady, and when you went to visit her, she would feed you insects in great quantity. She was wonderful. She was a Mexican lady, and we had some trouble communicating, but she was a great cook. Now, these days, when I walk into people that don't speak English very much, I have a cell phone with Google Translate on it, so that really helps. But in those days, we didn't have that. Another person who was very early in the game, and I used to meet with these people, was Dr. Jean de Foliart, and he actually started the Food Insects newsletter. He was the editor from 1988 till 1995, and he was one of the main motivators in that whole movement. The question, of course, is what will happen to agricultural waste and waste in controlled ecosystems. And so actually the work by Professor Craig Shepard was fundamental in that. He is actually the father of the black soldier fly. He actually got going on the black soldier fly, how to digest agricultural waste with that. So, and then we were sort of thinking about this. This is around 1980. We were sort of talking about that, and I was designing spaceships, and my graduate students were all very enthused about it. And then really came the awakening, and I started thinking, okay, why not do this industrially? So that is what I call the awakening. And I wrote a bunch of papers. Some of you have probably seen these from 1980, 1982, whereby I started describing, you see, this is an engineer's way of looking at things. I'm an engineer. I'm not a scientist. I'm an engineer, and I think in terms of processes and how to create things and how many million tons per year we have to do this, and how large a production system we have. And then I started designing processes. So this was one of the early processes. And when I see the modern plants being built, that's actually what you see. It's actually funny because this is actually how it happened. This is how it developed. So this is one of my graduate students, Candelo Melisa, in 1982. And we had a nice colony. Notice how he has an incubator with trays, with the bugs growing on that. Now, in that particular case, we had confused flower bugs. And I always laugh about that. The bugs were not confused at all. They're only called, it was the people who were confused, not the bugs. The bugs knew exactly who they were. every time I asked one of them, I said, yes, I am, Stegobium paniceum, and they knew that. Yeah. So look at this setup, okay, that we have there in 1982, and you'll see the same setup back later on. Now, we did a lot of research on food composition, so we made all kinds of breads, we did soups, we did spaghetti, we did all kinds of stuff. Now, the reason I like that organism, it wasn't a very good organism, by the way, but it grows very fast, it is very easy to handle, and that's why we did that, okay? They're nice white little bugs with little eyes on them. They look just like grains of rice. So you hide them in the rice, and you put paprika on the whole thing, and you don't see a thing. Yeah. So that worked really well. So we actually made a couple of television shows. I still have them. They're actually really fun to watch because in those days we had farming in Canada programs kind of thing, and they actually came down to CBC, did a half-hour special on us, and that was fun, and we made all these foods. Here is a young lady. Her face is blotted out because I don't have her permission to show her, but she was a dietetic student. She's probably retired by now, but she was a dietetic student, and they did a project on sausages. So we made wieners. The one on the right is a traditional wiener. The one on the left is our wiener made from the larva. So you can make wieners out of anything. So basically you grind the organisms, you add a little bit of starch, you cook them in a casing, and you get a sausage. This is, by the way, exactly how wieners are made, anything goes into a wiener. So now, oh yeah, we did a lot of taste paneling on that in places like this. Back in 1984, we did a lot of taste paneling, and we got the same rating as ordinary wieners. So yeah, same, fine. They were fine. We put a bit of salt in, a bit of pepper. No, it was like wieners don't have a taste anyway. So it's, yeah. Kids love them. Okay. You see, if kids love them, it means they have no taste. So they were not good, they were not bad, they were just put mustard on them, Yeah. Okay, so now then we get to the next stage. So once we were inspired, then actually for a long time nothing happened. I applied for 1 million grants to MAPAC, to NSERC, and I must actually say that most of the time I gave speeches on this, I had people rolling in the aisles, like they thought I was the entertainment. But slowly but surely, people sort of catching on to the idea, because now, of course, we have a problem in that we have a nutritional deficiency in about, where I travel, I work a lot in Africa, South America, etc. So we have about 1 billion children who are inadequately fed, who are stunted, who are not growing properly, who are not developing properly. And we have, in total, we have about 10 billion, we have about 2 billion people in the world, okay? So if we want to do something about that, then insects, is the way. Now, 2 billion people, everybody needs about 20, 30 grams of protein a day. You add that up, and you need some pretty major capacity. You need major capacity. So I'll get back to that in a minute. Notice the stacks of trays. Most of the production we have right now is tray-based. Okay, there's sets of trays that are, that are filled with usually dry feed. Okay, this is then mealworms. This is black soldier flies, etc. And so most of the production is that way. It is a scaled up of what we did back in 1982. It's an obvious way to go. It's nice. And then here, for example, we have the Protix plant. This is in the Netherlands. This is Protix. People are really, really impressed with this, and it is a nice plant. I know the guys personally very well that developed this. I was a consultant on the thing, so I know Protix quite well. But I want you to realize that this is not actually impressive. It's impressive in terms of their accomplishment. It's impressive in terms of their accomplishment, but in terms of production, this is not impressive at all. It's tiny, okay? It's a demonstration, okay? It simply demonstrates that it can be done. We need world-scale plants. So this is a teeny-weeny little plant. It's very cute. It's a cute little plant. Okay? It cost around 40 million euros, so about $60 million. It's a cute little production plant. This is insect. They make mealworms, same thing, okay? These are demonstration type plants. These are not world-scale production plants. Here's the Aspire plant, crickets in London, Ontario. Of course, Aspire has funded the conference quite a bit. Same thing, same size. So everybody right now is building demonstration plants. So don't get confused. These are not, this kind of plant has no impact on the world nutrition situation. If we look at that, okay, there's no impact. The amounts are tiny. This is not, this is good because it's a demonstration of the technology. This is where you go, all right? Okay? It's just like making one wiener, but you need 1 million wieners. Okay? This size plant is also difficult to make profitable, but it's a good demonstration. Now we get to the future. So one of the things that I do in life is I predict the future. Okay? I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm not a lot of things, okay, but you know, I think about what is going to happen, and we did okay. I predicted it pretty good 40 years ago. So I will now tell you what happens in the next 20 years. Where are we going, okay? And so because most of you are involved in that industry, where are we going and where should we be going, okay? This is not the future, okay? It's fun. You know, it's wonderful at parties, okay? You know, you serve bugs at parties with beer, and the more people consume beer, the more they're willing to crunch down. It's not a problem, okay? It's fun. It's not going to be a major consumption item, okay? It's not the way it's going to go. But it's fun. So it's going to be a small percentage, okay? People also don't eat whole chickens. They don't eat whole pigs. They don't eat whole cows. They don't lie underneath a cow and drink the milk out of the teat. None of it, okay? So that's not how food is consumed. This is a very limited market. The main market will be the conversion of insects into components, into food chemicals that you then incorporate in peanut butter, in crackers, in bread, in spaghetti, okay? So you want a high protein component that you can incorporate into chocolate bars, into massive amounts of food. This is how it's going to go. You're going to stick feed into some kind of organism, and we're going to have a whole range of organisms. Right now, we're stuck on mealworms, crickets, black soldier flies. We're going to have a whole range. So those of you who are looking for research topics, okay, we need at least 1,000 different organisms to do this. There's going to be a wide variety that will grow in different feeds. Okay? We have to expand. We have to look at new possibilities. Okay? Black soldier flies is already old hat. Nothing wrong with it. It's old hat. It's a wonderful demonstration. It's nice to see it. It's not going to be big. All right? I'll tell you what's going to be big. But it's basically going to be this. We're going to have some kind of a feed. We're going to process that into protein, fats. Chitin and chitosan is going to be a very large market. We're going to make bioplastics out of that. Everything is going to have to recycle. You see, we have to get a circular economy going. And there's a whole bunch of fascinating chemicals inside these bugs. Okay, there's lots of nice biologicals, antibiotics, heavens knows what. Okay, so it's a huge research field. So those of you involved in research and business development, there's a huge amount of possibilities. You got to pick one possibility and focus on that possibility, you know, and make that work. So, in the conclusions, we have gone from hunting, gathering, to artisanal production, to early, we are now at the early industrial stage, okay? If you look at the history of technology, we are now at the stage of the steam engine. Okay, we have the first steam engines going. Okay, we don't have airplanes yet. You see, so we're at the very early industrial stage. And we've got to realize that's where we are. Okay, so we've done a great job, and especially this conference has been wonderful, you know, in terms of getting people together. But we got to keep on trucking. We're not finished. We're only starting. Okay? We're only at the very beginning, okay? We have just discovered a steam engine, and it isn't really working very well yet because the companies are not profitable yet. Okay? Please realize this. None of the companies that we have, except for a couple of little ones, they're not profitable. All right? So we got to go, we have to adapt. We have gone from eating raw stuff, which is very nice, to food ingredients and large scale food components, food chemicals. We are working on the circular economy, and notice how the organism that I show here is not a black soldier fly, it's not a cricket, it's a nice little cockroach, okay? I love cockroaches, they're wonderful, okay? Because they have every characteristic that you need in a good organism. You see? They can eat just about anything. They're very, very resistant. They can grow anywhere. They don't hop. They don't fly. Now they scurry. Okay? So you can actually grow them in very, very thin beds. You don't need a huge cage. All right? They lay their eggs in very convenient places. So they're wonderful organisms. People find them yucky, and I go, no, okay? The quality of chitin that you get out of a young cockroach is wonderful chitin. Really, really good quality. So you rip them apart into components, and you have an organism that has great possibilities. And then there is one further advantage to them. Both termites and cockroaches some cockroaches are able to convert cellulose into food. And not only that, they are able to synthesize protein. All the other organisms don't synthesize protein. They suck the protein out. So you have a bit of protein in your starch source, and they concentrate the protein, but they don't synthesize it. We don't have nearly enough protein in the world, so we have to synthesize protein. Okay? Now, termites can actually take wood waste like I showed there. They can take rice straw. They can take bagasse. They can take all kinds of waste material. Right now we call them waste materials, waste cellulosic materials, which we have available in humongous quantities compared to starch sources. We're already beginning to run out of feed sources for black soldier flies. So we got to move to cellulosic organisms that can actually take very, very cheap feeds, and you need actually a feed with a negative value. So if you can find, for example, waste paper, it has a negative value. People will pay you to get rid of it. So we need very, very cheap feeds in huge quantities, and then we need to convert them with cellulolytic cockroaches, termites. Now, termites are very, very difficult to do. Cockroaches are quite easy to breed. And so I am right now, and I've done this a lot at this conference, I've been trying to convince people to actually switch or at least start investigating cockroaches and to actually use cellulose as a feed rather than all the other organic materials. As I said, I'm very enthused about cockroaches, so this is cockroach systems. Et merci.